Okay, so welcome to this session. This session is all about the homogeneous equation. So let's start. Homogeneous equation is defined as a homogeneous differential equation, which is a first order differential equation that is algebraically reducible to a standard differential form in which the coefficients of the differentials are homogeneous functions of the same degree. Meaning to say, if the equation is said to be homogeneous, you have to simplify first the equation, and that equation is reducible to the previous session, which is variable separable. Now, if you want to test if the equation is homogeneous, we have what we call the homogeneity test. Now, this test is said to be the function of the f of x and y said to be homogeneous of degree in K, wherein the x and y, if you will satisfy the below equation. So let's say you were given a function of x and y, then instead of using x, you will use the lambda x. Then instead of using y, you will use the lambda y. Then kapag napalabas mo yung original equation of the function f of x and y, then factoring out your lambda raised to any number that is said to be homogeneous. Then the k there is said to be your degree of homogeneity. So for example, you have the given a function of x and y equals x squared plus xy plus y squared. So, katulad ng sabi ko kanina, instead of using x and y, you will substitute lambda x kay x, then lambda y kay y. So, you will have lambda x raised to 2 plus the lambda x multiplied to lambda y plus the lambda y squared. So, if you will notice, all terms has lambda squared. You will have lambda squared x squared plus lambda squared xy plus lambda squared y squared. Then factoring out your lambda, you will identify the whole, all the original equation, which is x squared plus xy plus y squared. So that is your original equation. Then factoring out your lambda, wherein yung k is equal to 2. So therefore, that is homogeneous in second degree. Another example is a function of x and y, which is equal to the square root of x squared plus y squared. So, papalitan natin si x ng lambda x, then si y ng lambda y. So, that will be the square root of the lambda x squared plus lambda y squared. Then, simplifying the equation, you will have the square root of the lambda squared x squared plus the lambda squared y squared. Then factoring out your lambda, you will have lambda, then the square root of x squared plus y squared. The square root of x squared plus y squared is your original equation. Napalabas mo yung original equation, then you have the lambda raised to 1. So this will be homogeneous in first degree. Another example, let's say you have a function of x and y equals the ln of x minus the ln of y. Kung as is mo siya, i-substitute si lambda x and si lambda y, hindi mo mapapalabas yung original equation. So, you need to simplify first the equation. In that case, since the difference of the two ln is equivalent to the quotient of this angle, so this will be ln of x over y. So ngayon, pag sinubstitute natin si lambda x at si lambda y, that will be ln of the lambda x over the lambda y. Then, since na-cancel natin si lambda, mapapalabas natin yung original equation. Since lambda raised to 0 is also equivalent to 1, so this can be homogeneous and in 0 degree. Still homogeneous since masatisfy mo naman yung lambda raised to k, then the function of the x and y. Another example is a function of x and y equals x cubed plus xy plus y cubed. Substituting the lambda x and the lambda y, you will have lambda x cubed plus lambda x multiplied to lambda y plus the lambda y cubed. Then simplifying the equation, you will now have lambda squared. Since cube to, may iwan yung isang lambda, then x cubed plus, this is lambda squared, factoring out, matitira si xy, then lambda cube and y cube, factoring out your lambda squared, you will now have lambda y cube. You will notice, hindi mo na palabas yung original equation, which is x cube plus xy plus y cube, since may natirang lambda sa loob. Though meron kang lambda raised to k, hindi mo na satisfy na mapalabas yung original equation. So therefore, this equation is not homogeneous. Then example number 5, if you have x ln x minus y ln of y, hindi siya pwedeng pagsamahin kasi you have this variable. Then kapag sinubstitute natin yung lambda x and the lambda y, you will have lambda x ln of the lambda x minus lambda y ln of the lambda y. Factoring out your lambda, kaya lang may iwang lambda sa angle ni ln, hindi mo mapapalabas yung original equation, which is the x ln of x minus y ln of y. So therefore, this is not homogeneous. So that is how we do the test of homogeneity to identify if the equation is homogeneous. So, syempre, testing pa lang yon to know if the equation is homogeneous. Wala pa tayo sa solution of the homogeneous equation. Now, to do the solution of the homogeneous equation, we have this kind of solution. So, let's say you were given a general equation of m of xy dx plus n of xy dy equated to 0. M is a function of x and y multiplied to dx plus n, which is a function of x and y multiplied to dy, then equated to 0. So we do have two solutions. First is you let x equated to y multiplied to another variable. Let's say in this condition, you will use v. So, papalitan natin si x ng vy. So, syempre, pag pinalitan mo si x, papalitan mo si dx. So, you need to differentiate the equation of x equals vy. So, in that case, vy is a product. So, kapag differentiate mo siya, you will have dx, then v, dy, then y, dv. So, isa-substitute natin si x at si dx dun sa original equation. Your new equation will be reduced in the form of separation of variables. So, mawawala dapat si x at si dx kasi syempre pinalitan mo na siya ng new variables mo, which is vy, and si dx pinalitan mo ng vdy plus y dv. So, your whole equation or the new equation now is in terms of a of v dv plus the b of y dy. So, dapat from homogeneous equation, you will be in the form of separation of variables. Ngayon, kapag na-separate mo na yung variables, you can now have the integral of the a of v dv plus the integral of the b of y dy. Then the integral of 0 is constant. So you will notice that your answer will be in terms of y and v. But your original equation is in terms of x and y. So, kailangan yung answer mo na in terms of y and v, maibalik mo sa x and y. How? Babalikan natin yung formula na ginamit natin kanina or the equation used wherein that is x equals vy. So, si v will be x over y. So, ibapalit mo siya dun sa magiging sagot mo dito sa integral of a of b dv plus b of y dy equals c. So in that case, kapag naipalit mo na siya dun sa equation mo, your equation now or the final answer must be in terms of x and y. Another solution is if you let y equals vx naman. So ang papalitan mo ngayon ay si y instead of using x. So, gagamit ka ulit ng another variable. So, let's say in that case, we have to use v multiplied to x. Then you have to differentiate y, which is the dy. Then differentiating vx, you will have v dx plus the x dv. Ipapalit mo ngayon siya dun sa original equation. Dapat mawala si y at si dy. So, the reduced form of the equation will be in terms of a of b dv plus the b of x dx then equated to 0. Ngayon, kapag bumagsak na siya sa separation of variables, the solution will be the integral of a of b dv plus the integral of b of x dx equated to c. Ngayon, this equation will have an answer of in terms of x and v. Since v ang ginamit mo saka x, yung lalabas na sagot dyan would be in terms of x and b. So sabi ko nga kanina, you need to back the equation in terms of x and y. So gagamitin natin yung equation na to. You will have v equals y over x. So ipapalit mo siya ngayon dun sa magiging answer nito. You will have an equation of the function of x and y. Then this can be your final answer in either solutions. Dapat yung maging sagot mo, kahit alin yung gamitin mo, must be in terms of x and y. So let's try an example para mas madaling intindihin yung solution of the homogeneous equation. Okay, example number 1, we have to obtain the general solution of the given, which is the quantity of x squared plus y squared multiplied to dx minus xy dy equated to 0. So we have to test first if the equation is homogeneous or not. So we have the homogeneity test. We have your equation as the quantity of x squared plus y squared multiplied to dx minus xy dy. Papalitan natin si x at si y ng lambda x and lambda y. So we will now have an equation of lambda x squared plus lambda y squared multiplied to dx minus the lambda x multiplied to lambda y dy. You will notice that this will be lambda squared x squared, lambda squared y squared, then lambda squared multiplied to x and y. Kung mapapansin nyo, lahat ng terms merong lambda squared. So, pwede nating i-factor out si lambda squared. Sa first term, ang matitira is x squared. Second term is x squared, then multiplied to dx. Then the last term, ang matitira is xy multiplied to dy. Kung titingnan nyo yung original equation na palabas natin, which is the quantity of x squared plus y squared multiplied to dx minus xy multiplied to dy. Then you have the lambda raised to k outside. So this is homogeneous wherein k is equal to 2. So you have the second degree. So pwede natin gamitin yung solution of the homogeneous equation. Ngayon, either way, pwedeng y equals vx or x equals vy. So let's say we have to let as y equals vx. So we are going to use dy equals v dx plus x dv. Isa-substitute natin si y and dy dun sa original equation. You will now have the quantity of x squared. Then substituting y to the y squared, you will have the quantity of vx squared multiplied to dx minus the x, then the y, which is the vx, so that's x vx multiplied to dy, which is the v dx plus x dv equated to 0. Now, simplifying this equation by distributing each terms, you will now have x squared dx, then v squared x squared dx minus x squared v squared dx, then minus x cubed v and dv equated to 0. So, simplify ulit natin. Pagsasama-samahin natin yung magkakamukhang terms. In this case, you have the positive x squared v squared dx and the minus x squared v squared dx. So, makakancel out yung terms na yun. Ang matitira na lang is x squared dx minus x cubed v dv equals to 0. So, ang sabi ko nga kanina, kailangan mag-reduce siya into separation of variables. So, para maging separation of variables, you need to divide the whole equation by x cubed. So, i-divide natin yung first term by x cubed, that is x squared dx divided by x cubed. You will have dx over x. Then the second term, x cubed v dv divided by x cubed, you will now have v dv. So, separated na yung variables na x and v. So, pwede na tayong integrate. You will now have the integral of dx over x minus the integral of b dv. Then the integral of 0 is the arbitrary constant c. So the integral of dx over x is ln x. Then the integral of b dv is b squared over 2. So simplifying the equation by multiplying the whole equation by 2, you will now have 2 ln of x minus, cancel out si 2, you will have v squared equated to 2c. Ngayon, yung 2c mo, c is an arbitrary constant multiplied to another constant which can be simplified into c. So your equation is 2 ln x minus v squared equals c. So ito yung equation in terms of v and x. Kaya lang our original equation is in terms of x and y. So, kailangan i-substitute natin yung ginamit natin kanina na y equals vx. So, therefore, your v is equivalent to y over x. So, lahat ng v, papalitan natin ng y over x, which is the v squared. So, pag pinalitan mo yan ng y over x, your new equation will be 2 ln of x minus the quantity of y over x raised to 2 equated to c. Now, simplifying the equation by multiplying the whole equation by x squared, you will have your new equation as 2x squared multiplied to ln x minus, cancel out si x squared, ang matitira is y squared equals c multiplied to x squared. Then, ililipat natin sa kabila si x squared, or simply transposing this term to another side, you will now have negative c x squared. Tapos si y squared, ililipat natin sa kabila, you will have positive y squared. So, factoring out your x squared, you will now have 2 ln x minus c multiplied to x squared equals y squared. So, this will be the simplified form of the equation. So, your final answer for this problem is simply x squared multiplied to the quantity of 2 ln x minus c equated to y squared. Okay, next example, we have example number 2. We need to obtain the general solution again of the quantity of x minus 2y multiplied to dx plus the quantity of 2x plus y multiplied to dy equals 0. So we need to test first if the equation is homogeneous. So we have the homogeneity test. We have the equation is a quantity of x minus 2y dx plus the quantity of 2xy dy. Papalitan natin ngayon ng lambda x and lambda y. So you will now have lambda x minus 2 lambda y multiplied to dx plus 2 lambda x plus lambda y multiplied to dy. You will notice that all terms has lambda. So, pwede nating i-factor out si lambda in both sides. So, that will be lambda multiplied to x minus 2y dx plus the lambda multiplied to 2x plus y dy. Then, both having lambda, factoring out again. So, that will be lambda raised to 1 multiplied to the function of the x and y, which is the original equation. So napalabas natin yung original equation multiplied to lambda raised to k. So this is what we called homogeneous and in first degree. So again, we will do the solution of the homogeneous equation by letting y equals vx. Then the derivative of your y is dy equals v dx plus the x dv. So papalitan natin si y at si dy ng ganitong variables and equation. We will now have x minus 2 of your y, which is v dx, then multiplied to dx. Tapos 2x plus y, which is the vx. Tapos si dy, papalitan natin ng v dx plus x dv, then equated to 0. Then simplifying this equation by distributing each term, you will now have x multiplied to dx minus 2vx multiplied to dx. Then first term, 2x multiplied to v dx, that is 2vx dx. Then, yung gitna, you will have v squared x dx. Tapos 2x squared dv. Then the last term, you will have v x squared dv equated to 0. Ngayon, pagsasama-samahin natin yung mga like terms, it will be reduced into x dx. Tapos, si v squared x dx. Tapos, si 2x squared dv plus v x squared dv. Since this is negative 2vx dx and positive 2vx dx, makakancel out yung dalawa. Ngayon, you need to factor out kung ano yung common term kay dx at kay dv. You will now have an equation of x, quantity of 1 plus v squared dx. Tapos kay dv naman, you will have a common term of x squared multiplied to 2 plus v multiplied to dv equated to 0. Now, you need to do the separation of variables by dividing the whole equation sa x squared multiplied to 1 plus v squared. So, yung first term, pag dinivide natin dun sa x squared multiplied to 1 plus v squared, matitira na lang is dx over x. Then, yung second term, pag dinivide nyo, you will now have a new equation of v plus 2 dv all over v squared plus 1, then equated to 0. Next, so yung v plus 2, pwede natin siyang paghiwalayin but having the same denominator. So you will have dx over x plus yung v divided by v squared plus 1 dv. Then the second term is 2 dv having the same denominator, which is v squared plus 1, then equated to 0 para mas madali siyang i-integrate. So now, magkakahiwalay na yung x and v, pwede na tayong mag-integrate. So you will now have an integral of dx over x plus the integral of v dv all over v squared plus 1 plus the integral of 2 dv over v squared plus 1 equals c. So paano natin siya i-integrate? So you will now have to let as u equals x, okay, first term, then the du is equal to dx. Then this falls under du over u, which is the ln of u. In this case, so second term, if you let u as v squared plus 1, then your du equals 2v dv. You have v dv. Ang kulang na lang is 2. Then we need to satisfy du over u para mag-fall ng ln of u. Then the last term will be falls under the arctan, which is du over u squared plus a squared, wherein your u is equivalent to v and then your a is equivalent to 1. So our equation now is the ln of x. Then dun sa second term, you need to insert 2. Since you insert 2, you need to balance it by 1/2 outside. para maging du over u. You will have du which is 2v dv, then your u is v squared plus 1. Then kay arctan, you need to follow the formula which is 2 rather. Ilalabas natin si 2 since that is constant. Then the value of your a is 1. Then you will have the arctan of your u which is the v. Then a which is 1 equals c. So we will now have ln of x plus 1/2 of the ln of v squared plus 1 plus 2 arctan of v equals c. So simplifying the equation by multiplying the whole equation sa 2, you will now have 2 ln of x plus ln of v squared plus 1 plus 4 arctan of v equals c. So if you will notice, yung equation mo is in terms of x and v. Our original equation is in terms of x and y. Pero bago natin ibalik sa x and y, we need to simplify first yung equation. So, following this property, if you have a ln of b, this can be ln of b raised to a. So, ito yon. So, this can be ln of x squared. Tapos, since you have the sum of the two ln's, it can be ln of ab. If this is ln squared plus the ln of b squared plus 1, so pwede natin pagsamahin to. This can be ln of a multiplied to b. You will now have ln of x squared multiplied to v squared plus 1 plus the 4 of arctan v, then equated to c. Ngayon, pwede na nating palitan si v ng y over x. So, lahat ng v papalitan natin ng y over x. So, our equation now will be ln of the x squared multiplied to y over x squared plus 1 plus the 4 of arctan y over x equals c. So, simplify muna natin yung term na to. You will now have y squared plus x squared over x squared. Then, you will notice na pwede natin cancelin yung x squared. So, ang matitira na lang is ln of y squared plus x squared. Then, this term which is plus 4 arctan of y over x equals c. So, the final answer for this problem is the ln of the quantity y squared plus x squared plus 4 of arctan y over x equated to c. Next, we have example number 3. And again, we have to obtain the general solution, wherein your equation is x squared y prime equals 4x squared plus 7xy plus 2y squared. But we need to test first if the equation is homogeneous. So we need to perform the homogeneity test. So the homogeneity test, yung equation mo will be x squared y prime, then transposing this to the other side, you will have negative 4x squared. Then this one, negative 7xy. Then this term, you will have negative 2y squared. So papalitan natin ng lambda x and lambda y. You will now have lambda x squared y prime minus 4 of the lambda x squared minus 7 multiplied to lambda x multiplied to lambda y minus 2 of the lambda y squared. Then simplifying the equation, you will have lambda squared x squared y prime minus 4 lambda squared x squared minus 7 of the lambda squared xy minus 2 lambda squared y squared. So, lahat ng terms, you will notice na meron silang lambda squared. So, pwede nating i-factor out si lambda squared. Then, mapapalabas mo ngayon yung original equation natin, which is x squared y prime minus 4x squared minus 7xy minus 2y squared, then multiplied to lambda raised to k, which is lambda squared. So, this is homogeneous in second degree. So, we need to perform the solution of the homogeneous equation. But first, we need to substitute dy over dx instead of using y prime. Then you need to multiply the whole equation by dx. So you will now have an equation of x² dy equals the quantity of 4x² plus 7xy plus 2y² multiplied to dx. Now you will use y equals vx, then the derivative of your y, which is dy, equals v dx plus x dv. So papalitan na natin yung y and dy. You will now have an equation of x², then your dy is v dx plus x dv, equated to your 4x² plus the 7x, then your y is vx, plus 2, your y is vx, then raised to 2 multiplied to dx. Now simplifying this equation by distributing each terms, you will now have vx² dx plus x³ multiplied to dv equals 4x² dx plus 7x² v dx plus 2v² x² dx. Tapos, ililipat natin lahat sa kabilang side. You will now have vx² dx. Then this one, pag nilipat sa kabila, you will have negative 7 of vx² dx. Then last term, pag nilipat sa kabila, you will have minus 2v² x² dx. Minus this first term, you will have 4x² dx. Then yung last term kanina sa kabilang side, you will have plus x³ dv. Pinagsama-sama ko lahat ng dx para mas madali nating ma-simplify yung may common terms. Then nakahiwalay si dv. So in that case, you will now have vx² and also vx². So this will be 1 minus 7. That will be negative 6 of the vx² dx. Tapos ito, wala namang kamukha. So you need to copy negative 2v² x² dx minus of the term 4x² dx plus the x³ dv. So factoring out the common term, ang common term dito ay 2x². So ang matitira dito sa term na to, you will have 3v. Then yung matitira dito, you will have v². Ang matitira dito sa term na to is 2 multiplied lahat kay dx. So the last term dun sa equation is x³ dv. So you need to separate all the variables from v and x. So i-divide natin yung whole equation by x³ multiplied to 3v plus v² plus 2. So ang mangyayari, our new equation now is dv. Yung dv, makakancel si x³. So you will now have over v² plus 3v plus 2. Then yung first term, makakancel to. Makakancel yung x². Ang matitira na lang is 2 dx over x. Now, itong term na to, madali itong i-integrate. But this term will undergo partial fraction bago natin ma-integrate. So now, we will do partial fraction of the dv over v² plus 3v plus 2. But you will notice that v² plus 3v plus 2 is the factor of v plus 2 and v plus 1. So this can be rewrite into dv over v plus 2 multiplied to v plus 1. So paghihiwalayin natin ngayon yung v plus 2 and v plus 1 into a over v plus 2 plus b over v plus 1. So you will need to find the values of a and b para magamit natin yung a over v plus 2 plus b over v plus 1. So in that case, multiply natin yung whole equation into v plus 2 and v plus 1. We will now have 1 equals a multiplied to v plus 1 since makakancel si v plus 2. Then, yung second term, this will be b multiplied to v plus 2 since makakancel si v plus 1. So, ito ngayon yung working equation natin sa partial fraction. Then, we will use the by degree method. So, the highest degree in this equation is first degree, which is v. So, kukunin natin yung coefficient ng lahat ng may v. Sa side na to, walang v, so you will have 0 of the coefficient. Then this term, meron kang coefficient na a kay b. Then dito, you will have a coefficient of b pagdating kay v. So the first degree equation is 0 equals a plus b, wherein magiging result into a equals negative b. Ngayon sa constant, you will have to get the 1. Then yung constant dito, that's a multiplied to 1, so that's 1. Then yung constant dito, that's 2 multiplied to b, that's 2b. So plus. So you need to substitute this equation wherein a is equal to negative b. So you will have 1 equals negative b plus 2b. Therefore, your b is simply 1. Now, if you will have your a as equal to negative b, if b is 1, therefore a is negative 1. So, ang magiging equation mo, instead of using dv over v squared plus 3v plus 2, you will now have negative 1 over v plus 2 plus 1 over v plus 1 multiplied to dv. Now, going back to our equation dun sa naiwan natin kanina, ito, papalitan natin siya ngayon ng two terms, which is the integral of negative dv over v plus 2 plus the integral of dv over v plus 1. Then yung naiwan kanina na minus 2 dx over x. Ngayon, mas madali na siyang i-integrate. Wherein sa first term, you have to let the u as v plus 2. Then, du is equal to dv. Sa second term, your u is v plus 1. Your du is also dv. Sa third term, your u is equal to x, then your du is equal to dx. Ngayon, pag in-integrate na natin yan, you will have the negative of the ln of b plus 2 since this is du over u. Then the second term is also du over u, so you will have the ln of your u, which is your v plus 1. Then pagdating sa third term, this is also du over u, wherein your u is x, so you will have negative 2 ln x equals c. But take note that a of the ln b can be equated to ln of b raised to a. So, ito, mapapalitan to ng ln of x squared. Then, si c, pwede nating palitan ng ln of c since that is just an arbitrary constant. So, since lahat naka-ln, pwede natin gamitin yung property of the ln of a plus ln of b minus ln of c can be ln of the product over the division. So, you will have ln of ab over c since minus is c. So, you will have just v plus 1 as your numerator since siya lang yung positive. Then, yung negative nasa denominator, which is the x squared and the v plus 2, then equated to ln c. If both side has an ln, pwede mong kuhanin na lang yung angle nung dalawang ln. So, if you have ln of a equals ln of b, you can have an equation of a equals b. So, kukunin natin yung angle nung first ln, which is b plus 1 over v plus 2 multiplied to x squared, then equated to the angle of the second ln, which is c. So, simplifying the equation by multiplying that to x squared multiplied to v plus 2, you will now have v plus 1 equals c x squared v plus 2. Now, supposedly, this is your general solution, but your answer is still in terms of v and x. Our original equation is in terms of x and y. So, dapat maibalik natin siya into x and y. So, in that case, we will use yung ginamit natin kanina, which is v equals y over x para mapalitan si v ng in terms of y and x. Galing siya dun sa y equals vx. So, v is y over x plus 1 equals c x squared. Then, v is y over x, so plus 2. Now, simplifying that, yung first side, gagawin nating common denominator which is x. So you will have y plus x over x. Then yung nasa loob ng parenthesis, you will have y plus 2x over x. So i-multiply natin yung whole equation by x. We will now have an equation of y plus x equals cx squared plus the quantity of y plus 2x. So that is your simplified equation. So the final answer for this problem is the quantity of y plus x equals cx squared multiplied to the quantity of y plus 2x. So your answer is in terms of x and y. Since this is a general solution, there is still the presence of your arbitrary constant c. Next example, we have example number 4, but in this case, we have to obtain the particular solution. So we need to satisfy the condition at the end. But first, we have our equation as the quantity of x minus y dx plus the quantity of 3x plus y dy equated to 0, satisfying when x equals 2, the y is negative 1. So you need to perform first the homogeneity test. So we have the equation as x minus y dx plus 3x plus y dy. Then papalitan natin si x ng lambda x and si y ng lambda y. You will now have lambda x minus lambda y dx plus 3 lambda x plus lambda y dy. Then lahat ng terms has lambda. So pwede nating i-factor out si lambda. You will now have lambda raised to 1 multiplied to the original equation which is x minus y dx plus 3xy dy. So napalabas natin yung original equation multiplied to lambda raised to k. So this is homogeneous by first degree since k is equal to 1. So we need to let y equals vx. Then the dy is v dx plus x dv. So, substitute na natin si y and si dy sa equation. So, you will have x minus the y, which is vx multiplied to dx, plus 3x plus y, which is the vx. Then, your dy is v dx plus the x dv, equated to 0. Then, simplifying by distributing each terms, you will have x dx, then 2vx dx plus v squared x dx plus 3x squared dv plus vx squared dv equated to 0. Saan nanggaling yung 2vx dx? This term is negative vx dx. Then, this term has 3x v dx. Parehas silang may vx dx. This is negative 1 and this is positive 3. So, you will have the resulting value of plus 2 vx dx. Tapos, si v squared dx, v squared x dx, rather, you will have this term, v squared x dx. Tapos, this term, galing siya sa 3x squared dv. Then the last term is vx squared dv equated to 0. So you will now have to factor out the common term. Kay dx, lahat yan dx. So factor out natin si x, matitira is 1 plus 2v plus v squared dx. Then yung common term dito ay x squared, ang matitira is 3 plus v dv equated to 0. Then, i-divide natin siya ngayon sa x squared multiplied to 1 plus 2v plus v squared para ma-separate natin yung variables ng v and x. So, pag dinivide na natin siya, we will now have our new equation as dx over x plus your numerator which is v plus 3. Then, your new denominator is v squared plus 2v plus 1. So, pwede siyang bali-baliktarin since lahat naman positive. So, kapag separated na yung variables, you can now have your integral part. But this term, pwede natin siyang integrate agad. Kaya lang ito, mahirap siyang i-integrate. So, we have to undergo renaming an equation. So, paano ba tayo magre-rename ng equation? So, we will have the renaming equation. So, yung denominator natin na v squared plus 2v plus 1, this can be v plus 1 multiplied to another v plus 1. So, pwede siyang maging v plus 3 dv. Then, your new denominator is v plus 1 multiplied to v plus 1. So, ito. Your v plus 3, then your v plus 1 can be v plus 1 squared. Since dalawa yung v plus 1 natin dun sa equation. Yung v plus 3 natin, pwede natin siyang i-rename as v plus 1 plus 2. That is still v plus 3. Bakit ko siya ginawang v plus 1? Para maging the same nung nasa denominator natin. So, pwede natin siya ngayong paghiwalayin, yung v plus 1 plus 2, magiging v plus 1 over the same denominator, which is v plus 1 squared, plus si 2 with the same denominator, which is v plus 1 squared also. Ngayon, yung pinaghiwalay na yun ngayon yung gagamitin natin dito. You will now have v plus 1 over v plus 1 squared plus 2 over v plus 1 squared multiplied to dv plus dx over x equated to 0. Simplify natin siya ngayon. You will notice na parehas siya ng term. So, pwede natin cancelin yung nasa numerator at yung isang nasa denominator. So, this term will be resulting into dv over v plus 1. Tapos, yung second term mo will be 2v over v plus 1 squared. Then, your last term is dx over x. Then, equated to 0. Since separated na lahat ng variables, pwede na tayong mag-integrate. So, our working equation now is the integral of the dv over v plus 1 plus the integral of the 2 dv over v plus 1 squared plus the integral of the dx over x equals c. Now, paano natin siya i-integrate? Now, let's do the continuation of this problem. So, you will have yung first term as is, but the second term, pwede natin siyang itaas at gawin natin siyang v plus 1 raised to negative 2 dv. Then yung last term can be the same. Now you will do for the first term as setting your v plus 1 as your u, then your u has a du equals dv. Then for the second term, that falls under power formula by setting your u as your v plus 1, then your du is the same as nung first term, which is equal to dv. Then the third term, you have your u as x, then your du equals dx. Now, i-integrate natin siya. Yung first term, this falls under du over u, so you will have ln of v plus 1. Tapos ito naman, this is u raised to n du. So, you will have u raised to n plus 1 over n plus 1. Since your n is negative 2 plus 1, this will result into negative 1. So, you will have v plus 1 raised to negative 1 over negative 1 multiplied to 2. Then, this is du over u, so you will have ln of x equals c. Ngayon, simplifying your second term, magkakaroon ka na ngayon ng minus 2 over v plus 1. Tapos, taking note that the sum of the two ln's can be ln of ab. So, pagsasamahin lang natin yung dalawang ln, you will have ln of x multiplied to v plus 1 minus 2 over v plus 1 equated to c. Now, you will use v equals xy, galing siya sa y equals vx. Kasi kailangan nating ibalik yung original equation natin na in terms of x and y. So, papalitan natin si v ng y over x. You will now have ln of x multiplied to y over x plus 1 minus 2 over y over x plus 1 equals c. Now, simplifying that equation, you will now have yung naka-parenthesis, kailangan 1 fraction lang. You will have the common denominator of x, then your numerator will be y plus x. Tapos, yung denominator ng second term, kailangan gawin mo ding 1 fraction. So, you will now have y plus x over x. Then, makakancel ngayon si x. Ang matitira na lang is si numerator, which is y plus x. Tapos, this can have your reciprocal as x over y plus x. So, magiging 2x over y plus x then equated to c. Then this is your general solution since this has still the presence of your arbitrary constant c. Our target is to find the particular solution of this particular problem. So to find the particular solution, you need to substitute the value of x and the y, wherein if x is equal to 2, y is equal to negative 1. So, isa-substitute natin siya dun sa general solution to find the value of c. So, kapag sinubstitute natin siya, you will now have ln of the negative 1 plus 2 minus 2 multiplied to 2 all over negative 1 plus 2 equated to c. You will now have ln of 1 equals 2 multiplied to 2 over 1 equals c, wherein ln 1 is equal to 0, therefore c is negative 4. Ngayon, sa natin gagamitin si c, isa-substitute natin siya ngayon dun sa general solution mo to find your particular solution. Your equation now will be ln of y plus x minus 2x over y plus x, wherein c is negative 4. Then, simplifying the equation by multiplying the whole equation by y plus x, you will now have ln of y plus x multiplied to y plus x minus cancel si y plus x, that is 2x equals negative 4 of y plus x. So, this is now your particular solution since wala nang presence ni arbitrary constant c. So, this can be your final answer for this problem, which is the quantity of y plus x multiplied to ln of the y plus x minus 2x equals negative 4 of the quantity y plus x. So now let's go to our last problem, which is example number 5. Now you have to obtain the particular solution of the given y squared plus 7xy plus 16x squared dx plus x squared dy equals 0, wherein the value of x is 1, the value of y is 1. So performing the homogeneity test, you have the equation given, then papalitan natin si lambda x and lambda y. Then you will notice that all terms has lambda squared. So magiging lambda squared y squared plus 7 lambda squared xy plus 16 lambda squared x squared multiplied to dx plus the lambda squared x squared dy. So pwede natin i-factor out si lambda squared. Then mapapalabas natin yung original equation. So this is homogeneous in second degree. Now performing your solution of the homogeneous equation by letting v, or rather y, equals vx, your dy equals v dx plus x dv. So papalitan na natin lahat ng y and the dy. So you will now have vx squared plus 7x multiplied to vx plus 16x squared dx plus x squared, then the dy is v dx plus x dv equated to 0. Then distributing each terms, you will now have v squared x squared dx plus 7x squared v dx plus 16x squared dx, then plus vx squared dx plus x cubed dv equated to 0. Ngayon, pagsasama-samahin natin yung may like terms. So you will now have v squared x squared dx as is. Ang may kamukha lang ay si v x squared dx, which is the 7 plus 1. You will have 8v squared vx squared dx then plus 16x squared dx plus x cubed dv equated to 0. So factoring out the common term, kay dx, all has x squared. So ang matitira na lang is v squared plus 8v plus 16 dx. Then yung last term is x cubed dv equals 0. So we need to divide the whole equation by x cubed multiplied to v squared plus 8v plus 16 para ma-separate natin yung variables of x and v. Now, after mong i-divide yung equation, you will now have the new equation as dx over x plus the dv over v squared plus 8v plus 16 equated to 0. You will notice that v squared plus 8v plus 16 is equivalent to the quantity of v plus 4 multiplied to the quantity of also v plus 4. So, pwede nating palitan yung term na to ng dv over v plus 4 multiplied to v plus 4. Then, since parehas sila, it can be rewrite into v plus 4 squared. Separated na si x kay v, so pwede na tayong mag-integrate. So we will now have the integral of dx over x plus the integral of dv over the quantity of v plus 4 squared equated to 0. Ngayon, para mas madaling i-integrate yung second term, pwede natin siyang itaas. So that will be v plus 4 raised to negative 2 dv. So you will now have the integral of dx over x is ln of x. Then the integral of the second term is power formula. So you will now have v plus 4 raised to negative 1 over negative 1 equals c. So you will now have ln of x minus, since this is negative 1, ibababa natin. So you will have 1 over v plus 4 equals c. So you will notice that your equation is in terms of x and v. Our equation is in terms of x and y. So ibabalik natin siya sa x and y by using v equals y over x. Galing siya sa ginamit natin na y equals vx. So papalitan natin si v ng y over x. You will now have ln of x minus 1 over the quantity of y over x plus 4 equated to c. So yung denominator natin, gagawin natin 1 fraction. So you will have your new denominator as y plus 4x all over x. Para pwede natin itong i-reciprocate. So you will now have your ln of x plus the reciprocal of this, that is x over y plus 4x equated to c. Now this is your general solution since your equation now is in terms of x and y and still has the presence of the arbitrary constant c. So our target is to find a particular solution by simply substituting the values of x and y, which is x equals 1 when y equals 1. So, isa-substitute natin siya dito. You will have ln of 1 minus 1 over 1 plus 4 multiplied to 1 equals c. So, simplifying, you will have ln of 1, then 1 over 1 plus 4, which is 5. So, your c is negative 1 over 5 since ln of 1 is 0. So, isa-substitute natin si c dun sa general solution to find your particular solution. You will have now ln of x minus x over y plus 4x equals negative 1 over 5. Then simplifying the equation by multiplying the whole equation sa 5 of y plus 4x, magiging 5 of y plus 4x multiplied to ln of x. Then makakancel si y plus 4x. So matitira is si x multiplied to 5. You will have negative 5x equals, cancel si 5. Then you will have negative y plus 4x. Tapos, ililipat natin si negative 5x sa kabila, then distributing the negative sign, you will now have 5x minus y minus 4x. Pagsasamahin natin yung parehas may x, that's 5 minus 4, you will have x minus y. Then, wala namang changes dito, so this will be 5 of y plus 4x multiplied to ln of x. Since wala nang presence ni arbitrary constant c, this can be considered as your particular solution. So, if our target is the particular solution of this problem, the final answer for this problem is 5 of y plus 4x multiplied to ln of x equals x minus y. So that's all for this session. Topic of homogeneous equation. I hope you learned a lot, and if you have a question, just comment down your question and I will try to entertain every questions as far as I know. Thank you and God bless.